Hello, everyone. Welcome to our third GraphQL stream for the summer of GraphQL with Contentful. We're so excited to have you all here. I'm Shy. I'm part of the developer evangelism team. With me, as always, I have my amazing co-host and co-dog, Amelia and Cowboy. And we have our first ever returning guest, Stefan Judas, also from the Contentful developer relations team. Stefan, thanks for coming back with us today. We're really excited to have you here. So I'm assuming that all of you have caught our first live stream and have seen the awesome GraphQL project that we built in the first stream. We're going to continue going with that this week. So Amelia is going to inherit my awful code base and take what we built and do some amazing stuff using GraphQL and RichText. But before we get started, I just want to take a moment to plug a lot of the cool resources that we have. We have a really amazing GraphQL course that you can check out if you're learning GraphQL that you can get to at the Contentful website. We have an amazing developer portal with all sorts of great resources and videos and tutorials and things that you can do to help learn about coding and learn about Contentful. And as always, we're here on these live streams. We're going to be here every week until the end of the summer with some really amazing stuff. We're going to have Khaled joining us next week, which would be really awesome. And then a few amazing folks after that as well. And if you have any questions, we're keeping an eye on the comments, so feel free to post a comment, and we're happy to answer your questions live on stream. But that's it for me. I'm going to hand it over to Amelia and Stefan, and you all can take it away.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Shy. I'm really excited to be here. Hello to our live audience and later to our pre-recorded audience. So very excited to get some live coding done today. I'm taking over for Shy. I haven't actually baked any of these cakes of the project we're doing, but I'm going to pretend that I have, or at least that I've stolen them.
I'm just taunting you all, so you come visit me and have dinner at my apartment when we're allowed to do that again.
100%. Yeah. Come to code and come hungry, right? So, all right, great.
Are you sure you can make the same cake?
I can make better cakes now. I made a really excellent coffee cake this weekend that I'm very proud of.
Command C, Command V, you know. He's got it. Great. All right. Well, let's get going. Today I'm going to be coding while Stefan is driving, and we're going to be doing some pair programming live. So I will hand it over to Stefan. What will we be doing today?
Well, let's have a look at what we built the last time, huh?
Yeah. All right.
Nice. So last 2 weeks ago, it was actually, right? We started by using Create React App, and we started using Contentful's GraphQL API. So when you now start the development server for this project, we should see this cake that we were talking about.
Okay, let's see. Oh, there we go. Spinning.
Here we go. So this is this is Shy's lovely creation from 2 weeks ago, which we created. And this is basically a Create React app that uses Contentful's GraphQL API. And for this episode, what we thought is that we have currently this espresso cheesecake, but we only have this image and we have a headline or a title for that. So in this episode, what we want to do is that we extend this Create React app with Contentful's RichText. And I would say we can just take it from here and let's see what happens.
Great. Excited to start.
So to get started, what we need to do is we have to start the development server with yarn start initially.
And I have to do this little pre-flight check because I have a little instance with my ESLint. So just ignore that. You'll just be typing yarn start.
So in here we have now our development of the Cheesecake app. So which means when we now go into our app.js, we could change something and it should reload initially. So if we just go down into the return render, we could just before the image in line 36, maybe just add some random characters or somewhere, and then it should refresh just to set the ground here. Yeah, we can go with one paragraph if we want to. And we could say, hello world. Nice. Here we go. So that now should refresh. Automatically. It does not.
Let's see.
Oh, stay on the top. All right. Cool. So, and to use Contentful's RichText editor, we should have a look at the content model that we set up 2 weeks ago. So when we go to Contentful, we see here that this is a cactus, that's the wrong space. That we have for example, we set already up two cheesecakes here. So when we have a look at these 2 cheesecakes and we can open them, we see that we configured these cakes with several fields. So we had here a short text field, which is food name. We added an image. And then there's this thing, which is the recipe, which is something that we at Contentful call Contentful RichText. And the thing with RichText is that this looks a little bit like an old school what you see is what you get editor. But basically what RichText is that it gives, on the other end, when you request the data, structured JSON format. And to have a look, I think that what we could do is we could open Graphql and we could just see and have a look at how this structure looks like.
All right, let's grab these variables. We're going to grab our space ID and add it here.
Yeah.
And then we're going to grab our content.
Yeah, and you need this. All right, let's have a look at the token. Yeah. And paste. Cool. Let's have a look and enter. Cool. So this is now empty. So we could now start writing a query. So in GraphQL, you have always this docs and the schema definitions on the right side, like Amelia already did. She just wanted to start to poke around and discover things. But I think in the app.js file from 2 weeks ago, we already have a GraphQL query available, which we can just see if it still works. So we can grab the whole query here. Yeah. And we can paste it in here. And let's fire that up. Nice. Cool. So that's cool. So what we're not fetching currently is this rich text field that we have in our content model. So for figuring out where this field lives, what we could do is we could go into the docs on the right side, and we could have a look at, in the GraphQL docs, because GraphQL usually gives you all the information that you need. And there you could go into food and go into the description of the food field. Yeah. And here we see that we have the recipe available. So we could now extend our GraphQL query by using the recipe field that is available. Want to give it a shot, Amelia?
Sure. So should we start over into our food collection?
Yeah. So you can now go in there and can define a new field. Or we can keep the others because they're used by the app currently. So yeah, and now cool. Let's give that a try. But that is the beauty and the hate of GraphQL, right? The squiggly line is already telling us that something is not right here.
Mm-hmm.
So and it tells us that we need some sub fields of this field. So when you click, you're already right there. You click the food recipe. We will see that there are 2 things available. And it is, so the recipe field is actually an object, and we have to define what fields of this objects we want to have. So what we can do now is we can open 2 curlies. So curly open, curly close. And we could have a look at the JSON. Cool. So when we now query this data, we already see quite a bunch of things in there. So, and you see there that this is basically a heavily nested object that holds the information that we have in our rich text editor in Contentful. So for example, when we go into Contentful and we have a look at the data that we had there, you see that we had somewhere in this JSON blob should be, yay, it's the first cheesecake. Can we see if we find it? It is somewhere in there. Are we maybe looking at the other cheesecake?
Maybe we're looking at the other one.
Yeah, I think it's that one. That looks good. I think I've seen this data before.
Yeah, that sounds right. Oh yeah, there's the 1/3 cup of brewed espresso. Very good.
Yeah. Cool. So basically, this is a nested data structure that you can use on any platform. And all we have to do now is to do something with this. And this is where the beauty from the RichText editor comes into play. You have to iterate over this object, and not like Markdown, you can now really decide how to render these kind of things. So you start at the root node, which is this JSON field here, and then you could make your way through this. But I would say that this is a little bit of work, and most likely we would have to do something recursively, and recursive things always make my head spin. So what do you think, Amelia? Should we just copy over the query into our app, and then we could see what the Contentful ecosystem provides?
That sounds great.
Cool. All right, so we could now adjust the query. Yeah. And then when we now go down to the app, let's see where we use the data that comes. So we have here, if not data, we return the loading thing. So when we're in line 37, so between 36 and 37, we do a console log data. We should see the data that we just requested, but including our rich text. Yes. So let's give that a refresh and let's see. So when we open the console here with, yeah, we already see an object there. Nice. And can you open the object? So here we have food. And can you open the food? And there we have the recipe and the JSON. So what we now did, nope, that's a prototype. We can close that. Not dealing with JavaScript internal today. So here we have recipe and JSON. And here we have the big data structure that we just saw in GraphQL. So now there's the question, how do we render this in a React context or in an HTML context? So what we can do for that is, so I'm usually always just Googling things, and we could just Google Contentful RichText renderer or something. Well, the first one looks not too bad, I would say.
Okay, great.
So when we scroll down here, let's have a look. You see that there's one function available that is
Hey, Shy, can you start typing?
Yeah, sorry. I'll turn it off.
So what you see here is that we have a component or a function available that is a document to React components. And basically what this function does is that it iterates over this data structure. So you see that there's this object available that is called document. This is one-to-one with what we just fetched from the GraphQL API. And then it iterates over this and renders React components for us. So what we can do is we could now, first of all, install this package, which you see on top there with yarn add contentful add rich text renderer. And you go to your terminal and you install that. Yeah. Dun, 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 dun. And now you can do yarn start again. Yeah, that looks good. And now we can already start tweaking our rendering. So when we go back to NPM, and to the documentation, you see that we can copy basically the first line, which is import something, something, something. Yeah, like the whole first line. And we can put that on, yeah, just place it there somewhere. And we can remove line 3 now because we replaced the React logo with our lovely cheesecake, actually. Cool. So let's have a look at the documentation. What should we do next? So when you scroll down here, you see that, yeah, so basically what we have to do is when you look at the code block that is a little bit higher, yeah, and the last line here already tells us how we should use this. So it says we can really just call the function and we pipe in the rich text that comes from Contentful. So let's go into our template and then we could see if that works. Dun, 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 dun. Cool. And we would place it between 47 and 48. So after the food name paragraph. Yeah. And you can remove the comment from the end. So we don't need the hello world there. Yeah. And now we would have to wrap it into 2 curlies to tell the render function that we want to return that. Yeah. And we remove the semicolon and the curlies there. Nope.
Did I miss that you all set document to something?
Document is not document here. So the thing is that what we want to pass in is, can you open, give it just run the function with an empty object first, because I think it's throwing right now. Just curly open, curly close. Yeah, and remove the document word, because document is currently undefined. That will throw an exception when we inspect the object. Cool. So with this, we could now open our development environment in Google Chrome. And it should still somewhat work. Yeah. And when we now have a look, so what we're dealing with is, so the object that we locked to the console is basically data. So what we want to give this function is data.food.recipe.json. This is our document that we're dealing with.
Can we use Khaled's cool trick that we learned about last week?
We could also totally do this. Yeah, so you could also do a right click on the JSON property in your console. Yeah, do right click. And you could do copy property path. Yeah, and now we can go into VS Code. And then, yeah, inside of the function, what we can do is replace the curlies with data and then just paste what we just copied. And paste. Yeah, data. Yeah, it needs data.food. Cool. Let's give that a try.
Okay, cool. Okay.
And we do a refresh here. It looks like it's hanging or something.
Yeah.
Maybe you can just close the tab and open a new one. I don't know what's going on.
Is it the .json or the .recipe? I thought it was the .recipe.
I'm pretty sure it needs
to.
Here we go.
Oh, we got it.
We got it. Nice. You can probably take out.
So what just happened is this document to React components grabs this big JSON object and it iterates over this whole tree and it gives now renders React components. So when we, for example, inspect the crust and you right click on crust, you will see that there's probably, let's see, what do we have there? A headline. Yeah, so this is an H3. So when we now go into Contentful and we change it to H2 or H4, the package takes care of that for us. Yeah, I think crust is important too. That should definitely be a higher headline. So when we publish this, we should only need to refresh and then it should be a different element.
Yeah.
Nice, big crust.
Big crust. Nice.
So that's the thing now. So we had this JSON structure and we could now reuse wherever we wanted to have. But the power with Contentful's RichText ecosystem now is that you can basically tweak the rendering and can basically change how it looks like. Because what we currently do is we have the default elements, which is probably H1 to H6, paragraphs, and maybe some other things. But it becomes only really powerful when we have a look at the rich text and we start linking references together. And I think that we could do that as a following step. But first, maybe we want to make our trust headline just red or something. What do you think?
Sure, let's do it. Go ahead.
We wouldn't do that in our editor because this is the typical thing. You don't want to mix the representation so the fields and the looks of your data structures. If we now, so this is basically where we're coming from in Visivik world, is that we were able to tweak all the things that were in the editor. And usually the result of this was then HTML, because nobody could agree on the format of that the WYSIWYG editor should output. And for our example here, I think it would be a nicer approach to just say that the headlines in our React app should all be red. So what we could do is we could change the renderer that iterates over all these things. And to do that, I have to cheat and have a look at the documentation too. So when we go to NPM, you see, let's scroll down there. We see that there is, yeah, this is the example that I'm looking for. So first of all, there is another package that is called Contentful RichText types. So we can install that one really quickly. It's the first line here. Yeah, so we can paste that on the, yeah, but now we have to install it too. So you have to run yarn add with @contentful RichText types. You can, yeah, yarn add, and you can copy the part from the import statement in line 3 that you just had. Nope, we installed that one already.
Oops, this one.
Yeah. Here we go. So let's install that. And let's start the development server again. And everything is still working, I guess, which is a good thing already. But when we now go to the documentation, what we can do is we can have a look at what this package is used for. So when we go here, you can scroll down, scroll down, scroll down, scroll down. You see this options object there. And this is basically what we want to do too. So when we could copy the whole options object and place it in our application too. So what we can do with this document to React components function is that we can tell the renderer how to render certain elements. So when you go really to the top here and you paste just the options object maybe below the query in line 18, what we basically see here is that bold and text is not defined. So let's make the bold a strong. So strong is a native HTML, so we can use that too. And what are the other area? Text is not defined. Where do we have a text? And make text a span. Oh no, actually it's a paragraph. Make it a P. Yeah. So now basically what we see here is that we're defining an options object and tell the renderer how to render nodes and marks. And how this works, we will have a look at in a moment. So when we grab this options object and we go to the document to React components function, this should accept the second yeah. So here in line 59, so after the, yeah, let's remove the hello word first. Yeah. So in line 58, after the JSON, you can add a comma and you can pass in the options object. No, inside of the parentheses. So after JSON, add a comma. Nope.
All right. And then.
And options. Cool. And save. So when we now have a look at the result, we should have still everything working. Let's do a refresh. Is it refreshing? I don't know. Okay, then let's go into the code and let's start with the paragraph. So what we could do here is we could, where the paragraph is rendered, we could just add go inside of the JSX element for the opening P, and we could do style equals, no, in the P element, yeah, in the ending of the line of 24. Yeah, in the opening P, we can give it an attribute, something like style. Yeah, so do a space here, style equals 2 curlies, and another one, because we have to pass an object. Yeah, and then we could do color and then colon, and then a string with the word red. I think that this should already render our paragraphs in red. Let's see if that works.
Oh,
nice.
Nice.
So what we basically did in our code right now is that we said, hey, custom renderer, for the paragraphs that are included in this blocks thing. So when you scroll up here to the file, really to the top, this package that we installed is a mapping that gives us the options that are available in the custom renderer. So if we would now like to change the rendering of our headlines, we could go into our custom renderer, and we could more or less do the same for like we did for the paragraph, for the blocks paragraph. So you could add a new line below 26, and you could say square brackets and blocks dot, and then it should already give us some auto completion with the things that are available. Blocks dot, and let's see. So heading, yeah, nice. This is what we're looking for. So what kind of heading was it? 2 or 1?
It was 1 for the crust, 2 for everything else.
Well, then let's go for the 1. And then we can go out of the square brackets, we can add a colon, and then we have to pass a function. And this function always is called with node and children. So node, comma, children. And then like similar, like above, like an arrow function. Nope, you jumped the line.
I jumped up.
Yeah, and then parentheses. Yeah, and here we could now do an element which is like H1. We're in the 1. Yeah, H1, and then inside of the H1 we do. Yeah, something is off with the auto completion. Eh?
I know, it's weird.
And here we do curly and children. And basically, we could now do here the same thing, right? We could go into the H1 element, and we could give it a style block, and we could see what we could do with it. So a style attribute. So style equals. I think it has to be a small c in color, and we're missing the style. Yeah. All right, let's have a look. Nice. Let's bump it up a little bit because crust is our thing. Yeah? So what we could do now too is we could do just, I don't know, font size inside of this style object. We could say font size in camel case, so small f, capital S, and then pass it a string which is, I don't know, 4em or something. So and then it should be massive.
Yeah.
Nice.
That's a big crust time.
Cool. So this is basically how you can deal with the custom rendering. You can define your render functions for every element, and then it automatically goes recursively over this whole thing, which I think is very nice. But the beauty with Contentful RichText is, what do you think? Maybe we want to play around with inline references and references. What do you think?
Sure.
So
since you brought up inline references, we had a request that if you, from Peter in the comments, that if you do embed a reference, that you use a long text field on whatever the new content model you make is. Peter was struggling with getting long text to render as an embedded content model, and so he was asking if we'd be able to do that for him live.
Can you repeat the question? Long text?
Oh.
Yeah, so if we let's say we wanted to make a tooltip content type and embedded the tooltip inside of our rich text field, just the content model that we would be embedding if it had a long text field in it.
Oh yeah, we can totally do that.
Yeah.
Well, then let's come up with a tooltip content type. That's fun.
Yeah, and we can bring his comment up so we can give Peter credit for asking. And just for everyone who's still watching, we're more than happy to answer any questions or do some things or try some things as we build it to make it useful for you. So feel free to post comments and stuff.
All right, yeah, then let's go to our content model, and I do think that a tooltip is maybe not the best thing though. So in best case, it should be something that we're referencing. And a tooltip is basically the rendering and how you render it. What we could do is we could add a long text field to the food option, because usually you're not
maybe
adding
dietary restrictions or something, like, watch out for nuts and eggs or something like that. Or
ingredient. No, I guess we already had ingredients. Okay.
I think we could do here short description or something, which is really used for if we render tooltips or something, if we have to have it in a different shape. Because usually in your content model, you maybe don't, so you may have a tooltip, maybe there's a use case for it, but maybe there's more behind it, right? So when you, for example, think, I always think about Wikipedia. Like a few years ago, Wikipedia added these tooltips. And even though they are tooltips, usually they're referencing something else, a completely different page with a screenshot or something. So maybe we can add a long text field to the food entry, and then let's see if we can make that render in a tooltip.
Okay, text or rich text?
Text for now. So let's do it long text, and let's say Peter's long text. Let's see if that works. Yeah.
Okay.
All right, let's save it, and then let's see if that works. So we can save the content model.
All
right, and then we can go to content, and we can add something there. Hello from Tooltip or something. Cool. And we would need to do it in both content entries for the food, because we're going to add that one food entry. So one cake is having the other one as a tooltip. So we would have to have the text defined in both entries for the food.
Different.
All right. So what we could now do is we could go up into our rich text field, and we could say no inside of Contentful. And we could add an inline reference here, for example. So let's say that we have the sentence there, yeah, it's the first cheesecake. And then we could say, and here's the second one. And let's see how that one works. We could embed an inline entry. Let's see if that works. So you can click embed.
I think you'll need to do the same thing on the first one as well.
So now, what do you mean, Shy?
So you're doing you're on the second cheesecake right now, and you've already embedded the first one. You need to go back to the first cheesecake and embed the second one.
Okay, well, yeah, we can do that too. It doesn't matter much.
Yeah.
So should I embed this one then? Or it's already embedded, so.
That one's already embedded, yeah. So you can hit publish and then do the same thing in the first one.
All right. Yeah, you're right. Cool. So we could add here just a line at the end, and we could embed inline the other one. Yeah. All right, inline entry. Let's see how that goes, and then yeah. Cool. So what we now have here is our recipe, which will render with paragraphs and headlines. But now we are referencing two things together inside of this rich text thing. So when we now go to our custom renderer, we can have a look at how that basically could look like. So on an inline, so what we just included is also a renderer that is included in the blocks section. So when you go, for example, when we define now another renderer in line 29 and 30, you can open two another square brackets. And we could say blocks, and then let's see what we have. Blocks dot, and let's just scroll to the list. Let's see what we have. We have marks. We're dealing with inlines. Our entry here for the tooltip is an inline entry. So can you remove the blocks and do inlines dot? all capitals like the other ones. And now, did we import it on the top? Well, then we should import it on the top, really on top of the file. Here we go. So
Like
you
that?
can go into the curlies in the beginning of line 3. You can do just comma and then inlines. It should autocomplete and tell you what is available. Yeah, that looks good. And comma. Cool. So when you go now to, we're currently having a syntax error. So in the inlines, in the renderer function, where we already started in the options, so below probably something line, so we can do inlines dot. Can you remove and add the dot again? So that, here we have embedded entry. Nice. So then we can get out of the square brackets and we can add another function with node and children. And we give it again an error function. And let's just return, for example, a span with a random word to see if that's working.
It adds an extra one for my collaborator and
Just for you.
yeah.
Just pick a random word. Yeah. Cool. So let's see if that renders. So if now we see a hello in the React app, we are sure that we are in the right render function for this tooltip. So it should be really at the bottom here, because it was the last. Here we go. And here's the second cheesecake hello. So that is already pretty nice. So let's have a look at the data structure again to see what is going on. So maybe we can open GraphQL to dig a little bit into it. So we have to redo the query because we had some data changes. So just to press play again. So let's have a look. So when we look at the JSON structure on the right side, we see that we have an unordered list, but it should be really at the bottom somewhere. And then we have paragraph. There it is. So you see the node type embedded entry inline. And then you see data target sys ID. So you see that actually the data of the embedded entry is currently not included in the response. And the reason for that is, exactly, it's this part. It's just having an ID. So when we now adjust the query, what we can do is we can ask, so the recipe, so the RichText Contentful GraphQL field here, actually has a second field that we can ask for. So you can add a new line and you can see the autocompletion. And let's see what else is available inside of the recipe. And you can do control space to just have a look. So we have JSON and links in here. So links is pretty much what we want to do, I guess. Cool. So let's fire that one up. Field links of type.
Yeah. And is this one also going to get added to the documentation on the right? Like the automatic documentation too is going to update?
What do you mean?
Like links is going to show up in the recipe? This is kind of a leading question. I just think it's cool that the documentation like auto updates. And so I wanted to point that out.
So you can go to the food recipe and then you can, and there you see links. Yeah. And then we probably want to deal with an entry link. So you can go into entries. And then we know currently that we have an inline link. Yeah, and then we see that there's some food stuff available. All right, want to dive into that?
Sure.
So GraphQL is already complaining that you have to drill down into the links property. So let's do this. So to open curlies, control space. What was it? Because I already forgot what this structure was. All right, entries. All right, two curlies. Control space. Inline, nice. And then what else do we have? Two curlies, still complaining. And control space. All right, let's just query the ID for now. So let's do sys and then ID. Let's see if we get our entry here back again. All right, so we have there recipe, links, entries, inline, sys ID. Cool. So what we can do now, so basically we didn't limit what entries we can link from the things. What you can do here is inside of this inline object in GraphQL, what you can do is you can define 3 dots. So you can go between line 10 and 11. And you can say ... And now you could do on. And then space and control space. All right, so what we're basically saying here, if this inline entry is a food entry, all right, so let's go on food. And now we have to define the subfields again. So curly up, curly down. And here we can control space. And here we should now have available, what was it? Peter's something. It's not there yet because we didn't refresh GraphQL. So let's copy everything in the query and refresh GraphQL. Because we had a schema change there. All right, do a refresh. Yeah, paste it again. And let's go into our food object again, and let's see if the long text is now available. Nice. Woohoo! So let's fire that one up.
That's great.
For our entry, it's null though. Can we check our content? Well, what's going on there? Didn't we publish? I think it's the other one, right? Because we're linking one from one to the other one. Right, this one is empty. Yeah. Cool, so let's query that again. Dun, 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 dun. Nice. So basically what we have here now is that we have this nested data structure of the rich text, which says, hey, I'm rendering some inline thing here, but it has this ID. And then we would have to plug together these pieces and look into this links property and then have a look and map these things together. Does that sound okay? So what we can do now is we can go into our app.js and we can start fiddling around. And to do that, I would probably, first of all, create a new function in line 34. Yeah, and let's call it render rich text. And this function accepts 2 arguments, which is the JSON object. So inside of the parentheses. Yeah, we have JSON and JSON and links, so comma links. So what we could do now is we could move our options, our rendering options block inside of this function.
This one?
Yep, exactly this one, but the whole thing, the whole options thing. Yep, and you can move it in there. All right, and then options, yeah, that makes sense. And what we can do now is we can go into our render function. Dun, 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 where we use the other one. Yeah, so, and we copy basically line 65. Yeah, and we go up. Yeah, but we want to copy it and paste it into our function. Yep. And here in line 34 to 35, we can paste it there. And you can do remove the curlies first of all, because we're not in JSX anymore. We're doing JavaScript, pure JavaScript here. So you can now do return this whole thing. So really return space document something. Yeah, like the word. Yeah. And a space. And data food recipe JSON is not data food recipe JSON anymore because it's now coming in as an argument from the outer function. So you can remove the data.food.recipe and only deal with the word JSON here. Yep. And what we can now do in the render function is, instead of calling document to React components instead of the render function, what we can do is we can call our function. So the function is not document to React components, it is render rich text. So what did we call it?
Oh yeah, render rich text. Should I replace this one here or add a new one?
No, just use our function here. And now, when you look at how we defined render rich text, it accepts actually two arguments. It accepts the JSON and it accepts the links. So we would have to, first of all, pass the links down too. So it would be data, food, recipe. So options is not needed anymore. And we can replace options with data.food.recipe and then .links. And we're not doing anything with that yet, but it should still behave exactly the same. So when I have a look if it still works. So when we go here, it should still exactly the same. That looks good. Nice. Cool. So, but when we now go into our renderer function, the function that we just created, render rich text, we would have to do something with the ID that is embedded inside of this entry. So let's scroll up here. Up to our renderer thing. Yeah. So inside our inlines.embedded entry, let's remove the span. And let's first of all add two curlies, because we're doing a little bit more things in here. Yeah. And add a few new lines. And maybe let's keep the span. I just want to add a console log here. So maybe you can do a console log node first of all. And then a semicolon. And then I think we have to return something. So maybe we can return the span again. So maybe we can bring it back. And we have to use the return keyword here. All right. And you have to return it, like really return it with a keyword in the beginning. Yeah, like really the word return. Yeah. And instead of the span, let's add just some dummy text so that we see that it's still rendering. Cool. So when we now go into our local environment, we should have a look what the node looks like. Yeah, let's do a refresh here. And let's go to our console and let's see what was locked. Cool. Here you see, can you open the last log there? So it already says node type is embedded entry inline. And it says that it has data, target, and what is inside of target? Target sys and ID. So can you open sys? Because we want to use Khaled's trick from the last time. So what you can do now is you can do right click on the ID property. Yeah, copy property path. And let's go into our code. And let's just log for now, or just do between line 31 and 32, let's add a new line and say const inline ID equals, and then node, and so the node coming from the top, and paste, Command V. Yeah, we need still a dot in the middle. So now we have available basically the ID that is referenced, but there's the question, okay, what do we do with this? We would have to figure out a way to get it outside of this links property. So can we change the console log node to console log links? All right, let's have another look here. And let's go to Yeah. Yeah. Okay, we see here. Oh, it's undefined. Great. Did we update our GraphQL query?
Oh, I don't think so.
Aha. That was close.
I know, we were really close. I forgot about it. I have to do it in multiple places here.
All right, cool. Yeah, so let's have a look if it is now logged. Here we go. So you see there entries, inline. Yeah, what else is in there? And then inline is an array. So let's copy the path to inline. Yeah. And let's go into our renderer. So what we can now do is we could iterate over this array, and we could find the object that has the same ID, and then we could do things with it. So when we have to say, yeah, so under inline ID, so let's add a new line after 45. Yeah, and paste the stuff that we just had. Okay, so this is basically the path to this array. So so this has to be prefixed with links.dot because it comes from the surrounding of our rendering function. And here we could now do, at the end of this line, we could do a dot find, which could iterate over this collection of items. So this is now an array function. So we have to pass it to parentheses. And this will be called with an entry. So these are the things that we saw in the GraphQL response. This is this array of links that are included in this rich text element. So we now add an arrow function. Now like equal greater than. And what we could now check is if, so basically this is an inline Boolean expression. So let's do entry dot sys dot id triple equal because we're doing JavaScript, and then inline ID. So what this thing does is it will return us an entry. So so links.entries.inline is an array, and .find will return the entry if this expression is truthy. So what we can do is we can go to the beginning of this line, and we could say const referenced entry. And then equals links entries inline.find. All right. Oh, want to log that out and see if that works? So we could change the console log statement in line 49 and change it from links to referenced entry. All right, let's have a look. That looks good. Nice.
Nice.
So what we have here now is that we have the data available from this entry that is referenced. And what we can now do is to just to render a tooltip. I would just Google React tooltip and let's see what we find. Yeah, let's try the first one. Google is probably right. Dun, 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 dun. Can you click the Edit on Code Sandbox button on the very beginning of this document to see what this is? So that just we see what we're installing. So there's this big boot button, yeah. And all right, what are we dealing with here? All right, let's have a look at the preview on the right side. Oh, I think you have to hover the face, don't you?
Uh-huh.
All right. Okay, so how does it work? So how does it do? So it says what data for main tip. Okay, so it looks like it uses an A element, but the data tip thing is used for rendering the stuff that's actually in the tooltip. All right, I think we can give that a try. Want to install it? So we can go back to npm here, and we can do yarn add React Tooltip. Yeah. All right, so already complaining about something. Let's see how this goes. But on npm, there's probably, let's have a look at npm, how we should use that. So let's scroll down here to the usage stuff. Okay, yeah, let's try that. Put it onto the beginning of our document. And then let's go into our custom renderer. Yeah. And what should we render in the documentation? Let's have a look. Placeholder element. Can you scroll down? Let's see. Effect solid. What can we pass here? Event, 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 event. Is there something like the text? Class name. Wait a second. P data type. Are there more examples below? Delay show. More. Are there more examples on how to use the React component? That looks good.
This one?
Bref. No, basically, I thought that we can just paste something in line. Can you scroll down a little bit more? Oh, it needs 2 elements, which is a little bit annoying. Wait, hide tooltip and content. No. All right, let's check a different one. I think it's very pretty to include 2 elements here. Oh, we're running a little bit over here. Let's see if we can do it.
Yeah. I've got a general GraphQL question from the audience as well, if you want to answer it. So Jan was answering, is there any way to specify like an all, or does each attribute need to be explicitly declared? He's thinking about how they would transition from using a REST API and resolve links to build a page object.
Well, you have to my knowledge, you have to specify really every field when you write your GraphQL query. What you can do, though, is that you can write fragments. So basically, when you have a certain data structure in Contentful and a content type, let's say it's a page or a recipe in our case, you could define a fragment once, and then you could reuse all these fields. All right, what is that tooltip looking like? Oh, this is a big one. This comes with Material UI. This probably comes with a lot of other shizzle. Let's not use this one. This is probably huge. And how does it look? Target. Oh, they all do it like this. Let me Google here for a second too. Tooltip. Or maybe we should use the first one. Let's evaluate that again. Can you open the code sandbox of the first one that we had? So we had of the first one that we actually looked at and installed.
Was it this one?
No, like the really first one where before I said no, let's not use that.
Oh. Isn't it this one? No?
Oh, my video is a little bit lagging here, I think.
Oh, okay. I think it's this one, right?
No, we looked at the one on NPM. This one. Yeah.
This is the sandbox of it.
All right, looks like my video is lagging very, very much. All right, let's scroll down to the examples on how they use it. In the code sandbox. Can you still hear me?
Yeah.
All right. So here we have, let's do React Tooltip, show sad face. Can you scroll up a little bit? Oh, now it's better. Good. So we have data for sad face. Let's just copy line 182 to 187. Yeah. And let's go into our renderer. Yeah, and let's wrap everything in a div or in something. So remove the span and go with the div instead. And always 3 times.
I know. It's because of the shared, because we're sharing the space for some reason. It doesn't like.
Cool. Let's go into the, yeah, and let's paste the stuff in there that we had. Whoops. So data tooltip for sad face. So for the for, what we actually could do is we could use the inline ID that we have. So in line 45, what we could do is we could change sad face to curly inline ID.
I'm sorry,
So,
49.
You mean
Line-
55. Line
Oh,
55.
yeah.
Great. That makes more sense.
So yeah, in 54, it's looking for an ID. What we can do here is we could replace everything here, and we could do with 2 curlies, and we could just reuse. Oh no, really only opening and closing here, and without the double quotes. And remove the opening. Yeah, we could reuse the inline ID here. Yeah. And then we have not the sad face anymore in 57. This now would also be inline ID. And show sad face should be referenced entry. And then we, what was it? Peter's long text. It was like reference entry. I don't remember anymore. Can we have a look at Graphql again, what it was? It was Peter long text.
Long text.
We're almost there.
All right.
Okay, and our A, let's just place something in 54 inside of our anchor element. Just a random word again, so that we see that it's working. Yeah. Woo! Let's see. So let's do a refresh. Is Yarn still running?
Oh, maybe not.
Cannot find module React tooltip. Did we import it on the top? Nope. Oh, there it is.
I think you might still need to. Did you install it as well?
We had an error when we installed it, didn't we? Can you try to install it again? So, yeah. So what was the error? We ignored that. React tool engine node incompatible with this module. Expected version found incompatible model. Oh, can you do node -v? We are on 10.15.3, yeah? Ah, shit.
We're a little over time as well, so we might want to. It's 12:04 as well. So if we're about to get into NVM issues, we might want to call it a day.
Yeah, the last project I was doing needed 10.15.3, so that's right.
Oh, we're that close.
I know.
Yeah, we could do an NVM thing, so we can go into it.
I'm down.
How did you install Node? Let's give it another try for 5 minutes.
Stefan's committed. Stefan's doing this. He's getting his tooltip.
Oh, we're almost there.
Let's do it then. Let's go. Let's.
So how did you install Node, Amelia?
I have NPX.
Can you try
You
which
have
node?
NVM?
Let's see. User log. Do you have brew or something on your machine?
Mhm.
Let's just try brew install node. Let's see if that overruns it. Let's see. Or is it Node.js? Let's see. Brew install node. I think it's node. Okay. Updating homebrew live on stream. Living on the edge.
Okay. Well, while this is installing, I'm going to take a moment to plug some stuff because this is going to be a little bit. For folks that are watching, really excited to have you here. We have an amazing GraphQL course that Stefan had put out that you can get at the Contentful website. If you Google Contentful Learn GraphQL, we have a really amazing developer community. We have an awesome Slack. We have an awesome forum where you can come and get help and ask us questions. You can get signed up for all of that stuff at contentful.com/developers or contentful.dev. And also, we're going to be doing more streams for the rest of the summer. Next week, we're going to have Khaled joining us. We'll be talking about schema sketching. I'm on vacation, so I'm not going to be there, but I'm definitely going to be tuning in and watching, and so it should be a lot of fun. And shout out to Cam in the comments, who's been jumping in and answering a lot of questions as well that we haven't had a chance to answer live on air. So Cam is great. Shout out to them as well. Cool. Are there any other big things that I'm forgetting to plug?
Oh, the swag. You can get GraphQL.
The swag.
You build
if
our GraphQL API.
Yeah, if you build something using the Contentful GraphQL swag, you can get some awesome stickers and some awesome swag as well. And we will hook you up. So just share whatever your project is with us, and we'll hook you up. And you can find that just by, again, Googling Contentful GraphQL swag as well, too. So.
Okay, we updated homebrew. Wait.
I don't know if it's done yet. I don't think it is.
We're almost there. It looks like you had.
Does anyone have any other questions to answer? Well, this is
why I like Python World, is because I could just do my just
Python 2 versus 3. We're not getting into that here. Yeah.
That's your point. Make yourself a coffee, brew some beer. All right.
All right. Let's just have a look if node -v now has a different version. If it doesn't, we're going to call it a day.
Oh.
It does not. Well, we almost made it to a tooltip.
We almost made it. Sorry, guys. Next time we'll.
We did get Peter's text, so hopefully Peter's happy.
Yeah.
Can we? One last thing. Maybe yarn ignore errors. Can we just jump over that and install ignore? Yeah, can you try this? I'm pasting it into our chat and install it with this. So yarn, oh no, that's probably not correct. Wait.
Ignore engine.
That's the check that is basically failing here.
Yeah.
But we're gonna look at yarn at.
Ignore.
And shout out to Angie, our amazing behind the scenes person.
Yes.
For helping us with the comments in the stream.
Yeah, let's call it a day.
Okay.
All right. So
cool.
Hopefully, we helped answer your questions about tooltips. Maybe film a video when you have it up and send it to us. We'll put it on our YouTube.
Will do.
Amazing. Cool. Well, I think we plugged all the things that we need to plug. Thank you again, Stefan, for joining the live stream for a second week in a row. For everyone watching, let us know if you want Stefan to come back and if you want us to build some more stuff. And I think that's pretty much it from me. I think I plugged all the things, unless there's anything else that we need to talk about before we let people go.
Well, feel free to reach out to us on Twitter or on the community Slack. You can do @Contentful or @Shy or @Amelia WD or @Stefan Judith. So just let us know. And thank you so much, Anji, for doing all this awesome behind the scenes. So we look really cool and professional while we're here at home coding and chilling with y'all. So thank you so much for joining our live streams.
Cool. See you next time.
Bye.